Okay, thank you, Enoch. That one, today you've taken me to another a discussion I've never wanted to discuss. But let me start this way. Sometimes it is good to look at our history and appreciate that history. And indeed, 2022 was for Baba to win. But I think, and this is my opinion, the best we would have done would have let Baba remain as an opposition leader at that time. I think what ate Baba was supporting Uhuru. That was the biggest mistake ever Baba did. And not in a bad way. You see, you can agree to have peace. You can agree to have peace. You can agree on the handshake. But keep your line in terms of you are an opposition leader, and therefore anything that happens, you must ensure you stand firm and be able to say this is wrong and this is right. That is what we needed to have done for those who were in the opposition side then.
But if I'm looking, for example, from the thinking of those who are actually maybe advising Baba, was probably if you get Uhuru support, you get a substantial amount of votes from Central Kenya. And you know Central Kenya is a vote basket.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying it is very important to appreciate the history. And history says they have never voted for Baba. And so to come and change the mindset, it's not easy, and it was not even easy. But then also, it was good to learn also that how I wish then the former president would have been able to listen also to the leaders and at that time sit down with them and give them he would have said his direction. Before he left them, they tried looking for him. It became again very, it was like a conflict within an intra conflict that was not very healthy. And so you find that at many of the times, the leaders even could not understand what does the president want to achieve and how would he wish to package his predecessor from Central Province, who would take over from him. That is one thing he lost that opportunity. And that is why his members left. And the other thing is that, and that's why I'm saying, it's good to remember history. It's good to appreciate the words we say by our tongues. When you say something that, for example, in 2013, tumeshukuru Mungu, yangu ni 10, na yake itakuwa 10. You see, Kenyans remember those words. And so Central Province felt, we don't want to come and be told we never supported someone who supported us. They didn't look at anything. That's what they looked at. And I think most of them wanted to just, regardless whether it will have consequences or not, but they just wanted, first of all, to deliver what they promised and to keep their word.
Okay.
So that people do not, because they kept on saying, people always say we use them and we don't keep our word. So they were keeping their word.
Tutawaomba Wakenya tena wajitokeze, tutawaomba kura yao, tarehe 17, tuhakikishe ya kwamba mzee huyu sasa tumupeleke nyumbani, asikuja kusumbua Ruto 2022.
One of the things Kenyans always appreciate is when you become a victim. You become a victim, you become a hero to Kenyans. And so we pushed the deputy president then until he became a victim in the eyes of Kenyans. And I would say this. Yes, you must have a good strategy. But also, even as I said, the biggest mistake was Baba to support the former president. If the former president had a good strategy, he would have told His Excellency, the Prime Minister, that yes, we have had a handshake. I will support you from the back. In fact, in a way that nobody will ever know I am supporting you. You have a right to abuse, you have a right to say what is wrong, you have a right to refuse some of the policies that I'm bringing in and agitate about it so that you remain for the years you have been with your ideology and your stand.
Tunamalizana na mtu anafunga buga mpaka Bondo aende hapo muziki.
Sisi hatuna shida na Uhuru Kenyatta. Ni rafiki yangu ya zamani, si mnajua? Lakini maneno ya kutulazimisha kitendawili, hiyo tumekataa hiyo sisi. Hiyo tumekataa, si ndio?
But you see, one of the things I've come to respect the former Prime Minister is that he comes in a very genuine way. He keeps his word. He doesn't use you the way other politicians will use you. And I think that is his weakest link in being open. So open that he does things. When he says he's standing with you, he will do it for the good of you and the country.
Even when it's eating him.
Even when it's eating him. Because I remember one time we went with the Prime Minister to China. And when we were just in the room, I told him, I just said, Baba, I think it is time now you walk out of supporting government and now focus on your campaign if you're going to vie as president. That time he had not even said he's vying as president. And I think he was wondering, why am I saying that? But I could see and I could feel, it is your time, but if you don't come out, you see now what ended up is, those who are in opposition, when they entered government, you see Kenyans removed the government. That's what they believed in. So they didn't look at William as government, whether he was in or not. They realized he's the only one who was on the other side supporting us and pushing our agenda. So he took, I would say, it is the story of Jacob and his sons. Do you know that? Yes. It's a very, 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 it's a story just the way Jacob, Esau, and the brother.
So before I ask another question, I just want to affirm, was last election more like a game of might and mind?
Last election was a game of technology.
Na mimi unaona mimi nashika Biblia kisema mimi Raila Amolo Odinga.
I know I'll say this, but my ODM members will feel very disappointed. I think for the years Baba has vied, our team has never wanted Baba to win as president. What we have done, we ourselves have used Baba to win our game. But to make him a president, we feared. We feared that when Baba becomes a president, because of how he is and very liberal, Baba would have embraced the whole country. He would have forgotten the people who have held his court for the 20, 30, 15 years they have been with him. It was a big fear. Not just them, it was a fear on his circle that if he moves at the presidency, we lose him. And we become useless. And so the multitudes back home will realize the person here is only Baba, and they will forget about them. And they didn't want that. They are the ones who come and please and sing a song to Baba that is not a right song. And I'm sorry to say that. And it's not something I have seen today. I know they will say, oh, Elachi just joined. I joined, but my community and my family have been voting for Baba since 2007. So it's not just me. My brother, everyone has been voting for him. So even if I don't, or even if they think I've just come in, our families back home have been in ODM all their lives.
Was it a card that your team did not see?
Yes.
And did it play a role in William Ruto becoming president?
Yes, they didn't see. They thought, you see, one thing we never learned, that President William, His Excellency, is able to take any joke, any abuse, and make it an opportunity for him. He started with Tanga Tanga. It became a slogan. And everyone appreciated him with it. We didn't learn from that. He has come. You've played around with, you think you're messing up the minds of people when you're saying that. But then at the same time, he took it that way. And he made sure Wetangula will deliver for him Bungoma. And he knew, even if you refuse to give Mudavadi votes because of how the grounds are, he will have achieved Bungoma, where always, even Kibaki won because of Bungoma. Let's always remember, Bungoma has always been in government. And so, since Wamalwa's time. And therefore, he played that role, and he played it so well. And in the end, that is how the votes that indeed made him president, most of it came from Bungoma County. Most of it. But then at the same time, he took advice. He knew the weakness we had. And because we had sat down in the elections of 2017 as a good team, and we learned a lot, and he was the key person in managing that election. Already, remember, he had learned from Moi, he had learned from His Excellency the Prime Minister, and now he had learned from how the former president, not him, but the teams in the former president, how they set up an election and how they do it. So Chirchir being at the front was the excellent man, because he worked very well at that time in 2017 with Winnie Gushu. And so for us, we know how you put in, and I think even Dagoretti North realized how I do my elections. It's very different. We plan it. You don't just say, you plan it, sit down. And I remember even when we were now doing the last prayer at Kasarani, one thing I never, and I would say today, that was very unfortunate, was to close Kasarani with Diamond. Not that Diamond is bad. It was not the right time. He needed to have come when Baba is being sworn in. But in closing, you needed all Kenyan artists, and more importantly, because Kenya, as much as we will say words on social media where the grassroots Kenyan is a prayerful Kenyan. They believe in God, they trust in church, whether you like. Why do they do that? Because in every of their welfare functions, be it funeral, be it wedding, be it circumcision, be it eating, be it opening a house, what do? Pray. You bring in a preacher, they have to pray. They must bless. So Kenyans, whether at this elite style we have, thinking God is who, I would tell them at the grassroots, today on Sunday, if you want to know Kenyans, pray, just look at the churches. They are full. They have gone.
So you want to tell me, because how you also ended matter, because, for example, when you're talking about the Christian card,
yes,
and especially the religious card,
yes,
you look at Baba came with a secular musician,
yes,
Kenyan,
yes,
and Ruto came with gospel.
All
Kenyan.
Kenyan. He prayed to the end, and I don't know why we have never learned since Margaret Wanjiru. When Margaret Wanjiru was competing with Minor Commander, Mheshimiwa Minor Commander, you remember that time She went to a podium. She kept on praying and said, and indeed God granted her wish, regardless whether she's good or bad. But God grants wishes to what you pray for. And so let us not joke with that. That is the most innermost thing that Kenyans keep to themselves. Whether they, even if you tell them today that President William is bad, has brought a finance bill, they will go to church 3 times. They will come out. They will start believing in what he has said. They will just use the verses. So they believe. And they know, Toa ya Kaisari, they know. And they will say, Hii ni ya Kaisari. So some of these things you feel that we do, culture defines us. You know, Enoch, one of the things I've come to realize, which I will talk about it today, is that in any election of Kenya, if you don't listen so much, especially the last minute on what is happening, you will lose your election. The last minute defines everything in an election. And one thing that is very unfortunate, which I wish the governors of Nyanza would have done, they would have really monitored each of their counties that election. That people would be sitting in different tallying centers and trying to help them to say, in Nyanza, in Siaya, for example, by 10 a.m., we can see we have low turnout. Can we have people now coming out, going with their motorbikes, going with their small pro boxes to pick out people to come and vote? How I wish they did that. Because if the 5 counties would have done that, then in Nyanza would have had 90% of the voter turnout. Today would be speaking of a different thing. To have, how I wish we allowed him to just play his role to the end. That way, we would have given the former Prime Minister his presidency. So in other words, the blessings that were meant to be of the opposition in 2022 now went to the opposition that was there. Which opposition was there? It was the opposition of the Deputy President, William Ruto. And now he broke the ceiling of saying, in this new constitution, a Deputy President will be a president. You know, people forget, even as we speak all this, they forget that ceiling has been broken now. We have left the old constitution where deputy presidents were dumped. This is a new dispensation, and if you do not put your cards well, the deputy president now president has broken that ceiling, and therefore it's very easy for a deputy president for a president to finish and his deputy to come in and become a president.
So one thing that you say that there were calls for him to resign.
And he was very smart. He knew if he had resigned, would have taken him to the periphery, would have, in fact, what they wanted to do was very wrong. But because he's also a prayerful man, whether you like him or not, do you know he's a prayerful man, yeah? Regardless of what he does, because even in the Bible we have leaders who you'll feel they were bad leaders, but they prayed and God listened to their prayer. He knew one thing he knew, he will never resign. And he also taught us another lesson. When you are at that level and you're a deputy president, you can't resign because why am I resigning and yet it is one package? Why can't we resign all of us? It's an institutional package. It's not, we don't vote for a deputy president, we vote for a president, isn't it? Yes. So he has nothing to resign for anyway. So it's good. I mean, there are lessons, they are painful lessons, but we have to learn. But we also have to learn how to plan, especially if you are running for a presidential election. Remember, you have 54,000, was it 54 or 52, polling stations, the streams that you have. And so you have to put in a team that will take care of that vote. Now, that is why it's not easy for just anyone to say you are vying as a president.